Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Friday, March 15th, 2019, 4:57 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. Man, what a week this has been, especially the last 24 hours. It's like every day is a lifetime that we're living, and I'm just kind of reeling from everything, and I know a lot of people are too. So, we need to say prayers for everybody in faraway lands or next door, or, whatever problems they're going through, disasters, catastrophes, things that are happening, from the weather to the shootings to, diseases and illnesses, and it's just, this is the end. I truly believe we are in the end times, and it's beginning. And we have methane data. Yesterday I showed you Friday from March the 8th, and now that's gone, and now they've got Saturday, March the 9th data up. So I thought we'd look at that first. And we've got Arctic view and surface level chosen. So I've got the movie loaded up, so let's see what happens here. We can see in the forecast period more release out of the Kara Sea and out of Siberia. Looks like it's just kind of dissipating up here in the Chukchi Sea. Okay, here it is. I forgot to tell you where we ended. Here's where we ended on Friday, with this red-orange coming out of the Chukchi Sea and moving across, and then a release to the east of Novaya Zemlya, and more building up here in Russia, and this release dissipating around the northern coast of Greenland and out of Canada. So that's where we ended. So at the end of Saturday, here's what it looks like. So it's definitely releasing, a dark release in the Kara Sea. The building in Siberia is still releasing in the Chukchi Sea. So when we run this movie, you can see what they're forecasting. And the forecasts are pretty accurate, depending on what's going on. So we'll run this through this last time. It looks like it's calmed down a tiny bit. Which is good, considering, it's still winter. It's not spring or summer yet. I also have the world view pulled up so that you can see what the methane is in your part of the world. We can see very high releases in the United States at different parts. In the forecast period, though, watch where it goes, because it's going to be warming up. Now look, right there, on Wednesday, which would have been 2 days ago, and also on Saturday with the actual data, there was a large release up here in the northeast United States. Madagascar is releasing a lot. Indonesia is releasing quite a bit, in addition to the regulars of Canada and India and this northern Russian area and just different places. It looks like Norway has calmed down. It looks like the UK has calmed down, and it looks like Europe has calmed down quite a bit. So that's a good thing. So the forecast runs through Wednesday, the 13th. So I will leave this as the background. And I'm going to start with a comment that Nostradamus, aka Dave Alcock, our friend from the UK, just left on my video from yesterday. He said, "I think the transition has begun. The changes visible on Climate Reanalyzer are stark. Just in the last 24 to 48 hours, both poles have cooled rapidly, and storms are breaking out all over that weren't there yesterday. This could be it. I was hoping to last quite a bit longer, but it seems to me that a climatic shift has started. I've just got that feeling, and boy, it will be swift. Love to everyone. I hope you're all ready." Thank you, Dave, for sharing that with us. And so let's look at Climate Reanalyzer and see if we can see what he's talking about. I pulled up, here's 2-meter temperature anomaly, and so it's cool. I mean, we don't have all that warming that we did have up here, but it's especially cool to the northern part of Greenland, where it's coming up by Svalbard. It's extremely under what it normally would be, up to minus 20 degrees Celsius or so. And we can see it's extreme warmth in this northeastern part of Canada, and then brown all the way down the east coast. Of course, it's blue coming down the Midwest of the United States and over almost all the way to the coast, meaning that it's cooler than normal. So if we click around the world, we can see what's going on. Well, we can see that Siberia is, or Russia, well, this is Siberia and Russia here, is warmer than normal, and then the Middle East and I think this is Asia. I'm not sure if this is the Tibetan Plateau or Mongolia. It's hard to tell right here. And so that's quite a bit higher than normal. And then here's South America. Here's the Antarctic, and so we can see it has definitely gotten down into the blue range here. And Australia is still pretty brown, and New Zealand is still pretty brown. And here's the precipitation in clouds, and this storm that had been in the Midwest has now moved east and north, and so we've still got that going on. We still have this supercell moving along the Atlantic, going up and into the UK here. we have this thing going all the way around the equator, a belt of moisture, and here is where Cyclone Idai hit landfall in Mozambique, and now it's a tropical storm, and so it made landfall yesterday, and I'm going to give you a little update on that too. And but look here, here's a new storm cell in the South Indian Ocean. This is south of Sumatra, it looks like. So we've got that one. Anywhere there's yellow here, that means a storm is forming. Here's one over to the east, or in the western part of the Pacific right there, and look at all those little yellow ones popping up there. And then they're even in the red range up here. So it's a lot of moisture, very, very dense, a lot of moisture in this rain. And look at the yellow coming down here. So I think this is what he was talking about. Here the yellow is coming down in this green rain band. And then when we've got the South Pole view, we can look. Here's a yellow band on the eastern side of Australia at Queensland. So here's one in the Tasman Sea between Australia and New Zealand there. So we do have a lot of storms forming, like Dave said. And here's the jet stream going walkabout, seriously, and just looping and dividing, and it's crazy. Look at this. And look at this, where it's the highest. It's in the highest on the wind speed. It's up in the pink, the high pink, and this is at 250 millibars or HPA wind speed per knots. So that's like 170 knots. I don't know what that translates to into miles per hour. You can look that up. And here's the South Pole. Look at this jet stream. I've never seen it out that far. I've seen it loopy, but closer in to the Antarctic, but never out that far. And it's divided. So let's look at sea surface temperature anomaly. Look at the latest data they have for this is from Tuesday, 3 days ago. Now why is that? Just why is that? I just don't understand these people. These are computer models. You know, all of them are up to date except that one. Look at this band down here in the Pacific off the coast of South America here. It's cold. It's like in the -4 and more range Celsius. Well, it's hot down here in the Tasman. So there's that. I also wanted to take a peek at Worldview real quick. Right down here, so we're looking at today, the 15th. Here is tropical storm a day, and here it was 2 days ago on the 13th, and then here it was making landfall on the 14th, which was really around midnight their time. And here it's moving across the land, and it'll start breaking down. It's got to start breaking down. So I have something else to show everyone too. Let's see if this is going to work. Look, I just clicked on the Arctic and there's nothing. Why is this? I ask you, why is this? It's black today. It wasn't black this morning, but it's black now. And it's black from yesterday. But we have data from the 13th. We can see everything on the 13th. We can see that the circle is getting smaller as the sun is getting higher in the sky. And if we go to the Antarctic, we're getting the circle starting down here because the sun is starting to set down there. But look at this. Black on the 14th and black on the 15th. So Houston, we have a problem. It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? It just makes you wonder with all the weird stuff that's been happening with the internet and Facebook and YouTube and all that. What's really going on here? I would like to know, because I have an inquiring mind. But we can get to geographic and see everything else. Sort of. It's blacked out over there. Look at that straight line. Straight line of nothing. That's just odd to me. That just looks very odd. But what do I know? So there's that. And now I've got some news items I'm going to share with everyone. We're going to start. My lead story is from yesterday, or from today, the 15th, from 1:34 p.m. from Weather Underground. Historic flooding in Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota in wake of bomb cyclone. Look at this road, this bridge. That just, there's nothing there. It got flooded out and now the road's gone. And look at the car turned over. That's awful. Flooding on Easy Pressy Road off Highway 21 in Nebraska from March the 14th. All-time record flooding is occurring in Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota in the wake of heavy rains and snowmelt from this week's bomb cyclone. The storm swept through the central U.S. on Wednesday and Thursday, bringing heavy rains of 1 to 3 inches over a large swath of northeast Nebraska, northwest Iowa, and southeast South Dakota. These heavy rains fell on a snowpack with a high liquid water content, and the resulting runoff brought all-time high water marks to at least 24 river gauges in 5 states, with several more likely to reach all-time crests by early next week. By the way, I posted a bunch of pictures of this stuff and some different news stuff over on my Facebook page about this flooding. One death has been blamed on the floods. An unidentified Nebraska farmer who was killed Thursday after the tractor he was using to try and save a stranded motorist was carried away by floodwaters on Shell Creek near Columbus in eastern Nebraska, the Omaha World Herald reported. So, Figure 1, locations of the 24 all-time river flood crests observed as of 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Friday, March 15th. So all along here and all down here and then over here. So here's Nebraska. I think this is Iowa. If I've got my states correct. Yeah, that's Iowa. This is Kansas. This is Kansas. Nebraska flooding. Nebraska has seen the most intense and widespread flooding. The floods have caused one dam to fail and threatened to breach another. The Spencer Dam on the Niobrara River in northeast Nebraska failed around 5 a.m. Thursday, prompting the evacuation of dozens of residents. Floodwaters from the breach washed away a bridge on Highway 281 over the Niobrara River south of the dam. In addition, the Erickson Dam in north-central Nebraska was at high risk of failing on Friday afternoon as the Cedar River continued to rise. Look at that. It looks like before and after pictures of the dam. That doesn't look good. On Friday morning, all-time record flooding on Nebraska's Platte River caused a levee failure, forcing the evacuation of the National Weather Service office for Omaha, Nebraska. Their weather radar has been shut down and will not transmit data for the duration of the flood. Upstream from them, the Platte River has sent floodwaters into the town of North Bend, population 1,200. Look at that. So it got up to, it says 12.63 feet. Latest observed value 12.35 feet at 1:15 p.m. Flood stage is at 8 feet. So here's 8 feet, and so it's been flooding this whole time. So it's still way high. This figure, river stage of the Platte River near the National Weather Service office in Omaha. The river crested at its highest level on record, beating the mark set in 1996 by nearly a foot. A third of the 24,000 residents in Norfolk, Nebraska were ordered to evacuate Thursday after the Elkhorn River reached a record crest and the city's levee system neared its top. One person was reported missing after their car was swept away. The flooding caused a bridge collapse on Highway 13. A hospital and nursing home were evacuated in Genoa, Nebraska after the Loup River overtopped an intake structure at the Loup Power Division. Missouri River flooding. Record flooding is occurring on America's longest river, the Missouri River, at two locations in Nebraska, Plattsmouth and Nebraska City. The crests on Saturday are predicted to be over a foot above the record set in 2011 at the two cities. According to the NWS, the 2019 flood exceeds the 1 in 100-year flood for the Nebraska City gauge. The water would have to rise an additional 1.5 feet to be considered a 1 in 500 flood year. The predicted flood crest of the Missouri River at Decatur on Sunday will also exceed the 1 in 100-year threshold. Also, the Cooper Nuclear Station lies just downstream of Nebraska City, and the nuclear power plant is expected to close this weekend due to high floodwaters on the Missouri River. The plant was able to stay open during the record 2011 flood, so this may be the first time the plant is closed for flooding. Downstream, at Atchison, Kansas, the Missouri River is predicted to crest early next week at its highest level on record, beating the mark set in the Great Flood of 1993. At the predicted flood crest, the levees on the Missouri side of the river will overtop in many locations, flooding a large stretch of the river's floodplain. Here's an ice jam flooding on Highway 14 south of Fullerton. Heavy rain, snow melt, frozen ground, and ice jams. The record flooding was due to an unusual set of meteorological conditions, as explained in detail at weather.com. The heavy rains from the bomb cyclone were accompanied by very warm temperatures which melted a snowpack of 5 to 13 inches of snow. Can you imagine if all this snow we've gotten here in the Reno area, up in the Sierras, started melting like that? I mean, we're talking feet and feet and feet of snow, and this happened with 5 to 13 inches of snow. The snowpack had a high liquid water content equivalent to an extra 1 to 3 inches of rain falling, since the snow had been accumulated and compacting since early February. When Wednesday's warm temperatures in the 50s and 60s and heavy rain melted the snow, the runoff flowed very quickly into the rivers because the frozen ground was unable to absorb much water to slow things down. Many of the flooding rivers had thick ice covering them due to the long stretch of cold weather the Midwest endured this winter. When the huge pulse of floodwaters entered the rivers, this caused the ice to break up and create ice jams, which blocked the flow of the rivers, causing additional flooding. In addition to the Nebraska and Missouri River flooding discussed here, record flooding has also hit Iowa, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Weather.com has a full roundup of the flooding here, and you can click right there and watch their movie. Dry weather predicted for the coming week. Fortunately, Mainly dry weather is expected in the flood region during the coming week, with less than a quarter inch of precipitation forecast. However, a major warm-up is coming by the middle of next week, which will accelerate melting of lingering snow cover from the northern plains into the northern Great Lakes, keeping rivers relatively high through the end of March. So there's the end of that. Oh, and we've got warming weather here in the Reno area. It's going to be in the 50s starting tomorrow, and 60s. So it's crazy. So anyway, but it's dry. Well, it's not supposed to rain as far as I know. I want to see if I can find something on NASA Worldview, and if I do, I'll show it to you, but I'm going to pause this while I look around. I'll be right back. I'm back. I didn't find what I thought I might find there. So, we have another story regarding this flood. Uh-oh. I didn't mean to do that. Hang on, I'm having a brain fart. I got a late start because I went out this morning, so threw my whole schedule off. So it's been a hard week too. This is from News Center 1. Nuclear power plant in Nebraska could be turned off due to flooding, and National Weather Service in Omaha evacuated. So this is another story about what we just saw, but it's a little more detailed. This is from March 15th. The powerful storm system that brought blizzard conditions to large portions of the Black Hills in South Dakota is causing flood emergencies in Nebraska. And here's the message. The Omaha Valley Northeast National Weather Service is evacuating due to flooding. The coax radar is being shut down until further notice for protection of lives and equipment. Thank you for your understanding. Call NWS Hastings if you have questions. This will be the last message until the flooding threat is over. So, the National Weather Service in Omaha is currently evacuating and shutting down the radar due to a levee failure at the Union Dike. Floodwaters are currently rushing into the warned area. The Cooper Nuclear Station near Brownville, Nebraska, could also shut down due to rising floodwaters if the Missouri River reaches 45.5 feet. The plant must shut down. It is currently at 42.5 feet and rising. Officials from the plant say things are running 100% correctly and have plans in place should floodwaters rise. So here's the area. There was a flash flood warning. Here's the area that was affected. Says the Spencer Hydroelectric Dam at the Niobrara River was lost when the dam failed earlier on Thursday morning. So it's a large area that had the flood warning. Flood warnings are in effect for nearly the entirety of eastern Nebraska, portions of Sioux Falls and Yankton, South Dakota. Warming weather and rapid snowmelt is in the forecast for the area, but no further rain is in the short-range forecast. The National Weather Service in Hastings, Nebraska is taking over duties from the displaced NWS employees in Omaha while the flood threat remains. So it's got to be serious if the National Weather Service shuts down. That kind of flipped me out. Here's another article. It's about the nuclear power plant. It's from WKZO.com about the, it's from Reuters from today. Nebraska Public Power District on Friday declared an unusual event at its Cooper Nuclear Power Station in Nebraska due to the possibility of flooding along the Missouri River following a powerful winter storm this week. The plant continues to operate safely, and there's no threat to plant employees or to the public, the utility said in a release. They filled sandbags along the river levee. The biggest danger to the nuclear plant from flooding is the loss of power, which could make it difficult to cool the uranium fuel in the reactor core and the fuel stored in the spent fuel pool. That is what caused the fuel in some reactor cores at the Fukushima Daiichi plant in Japan to partially melt down in 2011 after a giant earthquake and tsunami cut power off to the plant. I thought it all melted down. That was my impression. Maybe one didn't. I don't know. You know, we got so many different stories out of that area. I don't know. So I'll leave all these links below. Should the river rise to 900 feet above sea level, the plant workers will barricade internal doorways as another layer of protection for facility equipment. If the river reaches 901.5 feet above sea level, it would take the station offline as a protective measure. The plant was built at 903 feet above sea level, which is 13 feet above natural grade. The Cooper Station is 3 miles or 4.8 kilometers southeast of Brownville, Nebraska, near the Missouri River. Man, if anything happened to that and all that radiation got into that river, that would be awful. That would just be majorly awful. Alright, now follow up on Tropical Cyclone Idai. Emergency update from directrelief.org. Tropical Cyclone Idai makes landfall in Mozambique. Even prior to coming ashore, Cyclone Idai was the deadliest storm system to occur this year, with flooding-related fatalities in both Madagascar and Mozambique. Well, that's the first I've heard about Madagascar. And here's flood waters in the Zambezia province in Mozambique. Look at that. I mean, it's just, there's nothing there. Cyclone Idai was already the deadliest storm system in 2019 before it made landfall on Thursday evening in central Mozambique, and damage reports are only just beginning to come in. Prior to Thursday, 66 people had died in Mozambique and 56 in Malawi from Idai system-related flooding. I reported on that yesterday. Look at that. An estimated 500,000 people weathered the cyclone in total darkness as the eye passed directly over the Mozambique city of Beira, bringing sustained winds of 109 miles per hour and wind gusts up to 132 miles per hour. Damage assessments are just beginning, and parts of Zambezia and Sofala provinces had already been inundated with flooding when the cyclone made landfall. It is likely the vast areas of floodwater are isolating many communities, which may severely hamper relief efforts over the next week. So they're asking for support, and Direct Relief is communicating with local partners, including the Real Medicine Foundation, which has a long-running mobile medical outreach program in partnership with the Zambezia Ministry of Health, and so on. Here's another story on the same topic. Here's an update. Tropical cyclone Idai made landfall on March 14th at 23:30 UTC close to Beira City on March 15th at 0 time. Its center was located approximately 25 kilometers northwest of Beira, with maximum sustained winds of up to 167 kilometers per hour. I'm going to see how many miles per hour that was. Hold on. Okay, so 167. So 103 is 103.76 miles per hour. Sustained. That's unreal. That is unreal. Heavy rainfall, strong winds, and storm surge affected the coast of Sofala region. The European Commission's Joint Research Center estimated a maximum storm surge hit a height of 2.5 meters in Beira. Idai should weaken as it moves northwest towards Zimbabwe. Heavy rain, strong winds, and severe thunderstorms are forecast across Zambezia, Sofala, Manica, Tete, and Inhambane provinces and eastern Zimbabwe. As of March 15th at 8 o'clock UTC, 141,000 people have been affected by the weather system. 66 have died since flooding began at the beginning of the month, 111 injured, and 17,100 displaced in Zambezia and Tete. Access remains challenging due to damaged roads, and several houses in Beira have been destroyed. The European Commission's Copernicus Emergency Management Service was activated for a day on March 15th, and the first maps are expected today. DG ECHO has deployed a technical expert to the affected region. So there's that. I know this is all heavy news. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. I have not felt right all week. Now, this is from trainfanatics.com, and it's called Crazy Strong Storm Winds Push Train Off Bridge in New Mexico. So, here's the bridge. Here's the train. There's the bridge. There's the train. See, it's one of these bridges that's up high. And so the train was going on the track and it blew it over. Looks like it might have blown the whole bridge. Look at that. There's the train on the ground. It says, "This looks nasty, a total mess. The local community was shocked to see the wind got so strong it could knock all these rail cars off." According to the State Police Department of Logan, New Mexico, 26 cars have derailed near the 469 highway due to crazy high winds. The National Weather Service sent out a warning the day the crash happened that the wind speeds were some of the strongest winds in the area in many years, 58 to 84 miles per hour. The fire chief and the fire department and EMS were immediately notified to get to the scene. Luckily, no one was reported to have been injured. The cars were fortunately empty, but many hazardous materials had to be cleaned up. Take a look at the images below, taken by the New Mexico Police Department, shared on Twitter. 26 rail cars. The train was crossing over the Canadian River Bridge when a strong gust of wind pushed only the tail end of the train off the bridge. Railroad Company Union Pacific spokesperson Raquel Espinoza said 26 cars fell off the bridge out of a total of 73 rail cars being pulled by 2 locomotive engines. The bridge, constructed in 1954, took some heavy damage as well that's made it non-operational until the railroad repair team can get in there and rebuild it. What a miracle no one was hurt and that it didn't flip the other 47 cars over, especially the 2 engines that had men in them. That could have been real bad. Yeah. The wreck also stopped traffic for around an hour on Highway 469, but was quickly back to flowing as usual. Never has this happened before in the community of Logan, New Mexico, so everyone was a bit in awe. And here's a video of it. See if we can run that. So, there's that. I saw the date on this earlier. It was a couple of days ago. So, there's that. And I've got one more story. This has to do with climate change. This is from the LA Times from today. Destruction from sea level rise in California could exceed worst wildfires and earthquakes, new research shows. Here's a picture of high surf crashes into a rock wall at Capistrano Beach in December. In the most extensive study to date on sea level rise in California, researchers say damage by the end of the century could be far more devastating than the worst earthquakes and wildfires in state history. A team of USGS scientists concluded that even a modest amount of sea level rise, often dismissed as a creeping, slow-moving disaster, could overwhelm communities when a storm hits at the same time. The study combined sea level rise in storms for the first time, as well as wave action, cliff erosion, beach loss, and other coastal threats across California. These factors have been studied extensively but rarely together in the same model. The results are sobering. More than 500,000 Californians and $150 billion in property are at risk of flooding along the coast by 2100. We won't be here, I anticipate. Equivalent to 6% of the state's GDP, the study found, and on par with Hurricane Katrina and some of the world's costliest disasters. The number of people exposed is 3 times greater than previous models that considered only sea level rise. And at a time when marshes are drowning, cliffs eroding, beaches disappearing, and severe storms likely to become more frequent, scientists say even a small shift in sea level rise could launch a new range of extremes that Californians would have to confront every single year. And here's projected map. You can see the water coming in at these different levels, and it starts over. Here it is at 0. Here's at here's 1 meter, 1.5, 2 meters, and 2 meters with a 100-year storm. Watch that. This is Seal Beach, Naples, and Belmont Shore. Potential flooding at Alamitos Bay. So there you have it. So it creeps up, and anyway, it goes on and on. So I will leave the link below for if you want to read this article. And that's all of our news for tonight. I'm going to take a short break and clear out my cookies, and we'll do earthquakes. So don't go anywhere. Okay, I'm back, and we're starting the earthquake report at 5:59 p.m. So I have USGS pulled up for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours, and we're showing 260 worldwide. So that's high. That's a high number. We can see an increase in the number, and you can see they're just red and just coming in. And then if we look at 2.5 magnitude and higher, they're at 38. So let's see. This one in Oklahoma is about to come off the map. So we're going to start here at Okeen, Oklahoma. That was a 2.5. Then we've got some in Puerto Rico and Anchor Point, Alaska. We should be okay on the Alaska one. So let's start with what's going on in Oklahoma. It's still, things are happening. So the first one was a 2.5 that came in yesterday at 6:13 in the evening, 5 kilometers deep near O'Keene. Next was a 2.2 near Harper, Kansas at 6:56 last night. Next was a 2.3 near Anthony, Kansas at 9:07 last night. And 9:07 last night. And then this one just came in, a 2.4 near Minco, Oklahoma at 5:28 this afternoon. So there's that. Let's go to Dominican Republic next, because there's some coming off the map soon over here. I have all magnitudes pulled up. We're seeing 13 here today. So I'll just call them off. 2.9 at 6:14 last night. 2.8, 2.6, 2.1, 1.1, 3.1, 1.9, 1.9, 1.4, 1.7, 1.1, 2.2, and 2.8 is the last one. That one's in the ocean near San Antonio, Puerto Rico at 2:58 this afternoon, 98 kilometers deep. So we were seeing a cluster down here on the southern part of Puerto Rico. We had 4 right there. So the highest was a 3.1 in the ocean up here. That one on land was a 2.6. So those are not big enough to cause any damage, but it's showing movement. Now I want to start in South America with, go back to 2.5 magnitudes. With this large one, this is the biggest one today. In Bolivia, it came in at a 6.3 near Clisa, Bolivia at 10:03 last night, 358 kilometers deep. That's a large earthquake, and the fact that it was so deep probably kept it from causing any, if much, damage. But that's a huge earthquake, and it looks like it's pretty much out in the middle of nowhere, but you never know who might be living in those mountains. So the times I'm telling are Pacific time, because that's my time zone that I work from. And then down here off the coast of Chile was a 4.7 near Puerto Cayun, Chile at 11:42 this morning. Coming across the Pacific was a 5.5 in the Kermadec Island region near Raoul Island, New Zealand at 10:53 this morning. Coming across was a 5.1 near Candria, Papua New Guinea at 5:08 this morning, 49 kilometers deep. We can click on that wave and it'll show us if there was a tsunami warning or not. And the last one that was issued was on the 13th of March. Today's the 15th. So is not even on the map, so no tsunami warning there. Next was a 5.1 near Kepulauan, Barat Daya, Indonesia at 12:35 this afternoon, 139 kilometers deep. So that was a little deeper. Now moving on up to the Philippines, we had a 4.4 near Pandaguitan, Philippines at 12 noon, 102 kilometers deep. And then we had this 5.5 on land near Manga, Philippines at 4:07 this afternoon, 90 kilometers deep. Now that's big enough it could cause damage. So that just happened, 4:07. Normally we see them in the water, but not always. 4.9 near Mariso Village, Guam at 2:17 this afternoon, 148 kilometers deep. Moving on up to Japan was one off the coast at 4.4 near Nami, Japan at 9:51 last night, 35 kilometers deep. Moving on up to Russia, we have one off the coast of Kamchatka at 4.4 near Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky, Russia at 12:41 this morning, 42 kilometers deep. Then on land was 4.4 near Jarm, Afghanistan at 3:31 this afternoon. This was pretty deep, 231 kilometers deep. Next was this one in the Aegean Sea, a 4.5 near Bozkata, Turkey at 2:54 this afternoon. Now let's go to all magnitudes and move over to Hawaii. We've got 8 here today, including one out in the ocean. That's a 3.1. So I'll call them off. 1.8, 2.6, 1.7, 2.2, 1.8, 3.1, that's the largest one, 1.7, and 1.9. So we're still seeing activity. This is at Mauna Loa. So just still lots of activity going on up there. Now let's move up to the Alaska region. Well, we've got all magnitudes going here. And we're showing 71 on the map today. So that's a little higher than we've been seeing, but Alaska averages between 50 and 100 earthquakes a day. We're going to start with this 4.5 near Bull Deer Island, Alaska, that happened at 3:33 this afternoon, 130 kilometers deep. 3.6 near Little Sitkin Island at 3:33, 50 kilometers deep. So those were at the same time and the same second. So that's very unusual. So at the 14-second mark, so at 3:33 and 14-second mark on both of those. That's kind of creepy. So the 4.5 and 3.6, both at the same time there. And that one was 50 kilometers deep, and the first one was 130 kilometers deep. That's kind of creepy. Next was a 4.0 near Adak at 6:39 this morning, 32 kilometers deep. Next we've got a cluster. We've got 3 in a row here. A 3.8 near False Pass at 5:05 this morning, and then a 2.9 near False Pass at 7:06 this morning, and a 2.0 near False Pass at 8:44 this morning. Did I show this one? 4.0 near Adak. Then here's a 4.0 near Kodiak at 12 o'clock midnight, 19 kilometers deep. Moving on up on this this tail here, 2.5 near Larsen Bay, 2.3 near Larsen Bay. Here's a 2.3 near Larsen Bay, 2.0 near Kodiak, 2.5 near Fritz Creek, 3.4 near Anchor Point. That happened at 6:42 last night, 6:42 p.m. last night, 89 kilometers deep. 1.5 near Anchor Point, 2.0 near Anchor Point. This one just happened, a 1.3 near Redoubt Volcano, 2.4 near Redoubt, and a 2.0 near Redoubt. Now we've been seeing sulfur dioxide releasing in this area. This is why I'm interested in this activity, because remember last week we saw a large release coming from this area. So here's a 1.9 near Homer, 2.5 near Fritz Creek, I showed that, 2.3 near Seaward, 2.3 near Seaward, 2.6 near Anchorage. See, these are getting higher. Normally these are like in the ones, but now they're getting up into the twos, high twos. Here's a 2.3 near Big Lake, 2.0 near Talkeetna, 2.0 near Willow. Here's a 1.5 near Fishhook, and so on. What's going on here? Oh my gosh, what have we got here? Talk about a cluster at Cantwell. Let's zoom in on one more time here. Okay, all of them right here. There are 13 right here, and they're they started last night at 6:59 p.m. 2.1 at 6:59 p.m. 0 kilometers depth. So when it's really shallow like that, I worry, because you know I'm wondering, you know, is the magma coming up to the surface without it being a volcano, or you know, what's going on here? I don't know, it's just a thought. And then 1.7 happened at 7:04 at 0 kilometers depth. Then a 3.9, that's getting up there, at 10:58 last night. A 0.9 at 11:04 last night. 2.3 at 11:17 last night at 0.1 kilometers depth. 1.7 at 11:20 last night, so that was 3 minutes later at 0 kilometers depth. 1.7 at 11:35, so 15 minutes later at 0 kilometers depth. 2.9 at 10 minutes after midnight at 12:10 at 0.2 kilometers depth. 2.2 at 12:24 this morning at 0.4 kilometers depth. 2.1 at 3:20 this morning, 0 kilometers depth. 0.5 at 3:25 this morning. 1.7 at 8:22 this morning, 0 kilometers depth. And the last one was a 1.5 at 12:06 this afternoon, 3 kilometers depth. So something's happening. Then look at all of these just close by. Cantwell, close by. Here's a 1.2. That's calling near Cantwell. That happened last night at 11:13, 101 kilometers depth. So that was a deep one, while these were very shallow. Very shallow. Here's a 1.4 near Healy. 1.2 near Healy. 2.1 near Healy. So it's just picking up, in my opinion. From what I'm seeing, it looks like it's picking up. Let's see what this one is. 1.4 near Yakutat. I'm having a brain fart. That happened at 5:28 this afternoon, 0 kilometers depth. What's up with all those 0 kilometers depth? That bothers me. We've got 7 at Kobuk, 2.4, 2.9, and 1.7. These last two were at 0 kilometers depth. And then we've got 3 up at Koktovik, a 2.5, 2.5, and 2.7. Now let's come on down into the lower 48. We're going to start over here in Tennessee. We've got 3 stacked up. They're calling this near Greenback, Tennessee, a 2.3 at 11:22 last night, a 2.2 at 12:53 this morning. This one was 0 kilometers depth, and a 2.1 at 7:08 this morning at a 0.2 kilometers depth. So those are shallow. And we showed Oklahoma. We've got Oklahoma and Kansas. We already showed those, but we'll do them again. 2.4 near Minco, Oklahoma. 2.3 near Anthony, Kansas. And a 2.2 near Harper, Kansas. Now moving on into Utah, we've got 22. Are you kidding me? Are they all right there at Farron? Yep. remember when we had that swarm at Farron a couple of weeks ago? It looks like we got him again. It's right at the same place except for this one. This one is a little bit to the west of this cluster or this swarm. That's a 1.7. Let's see when all these started. They started last night at 7:59 p.m. with a 1.2, and the last one was at 3:17 this afternoon, a 1.9. Okay, so let's see. Here's a 2.0. All the rest of them are in ones. Here's a 2.7. That's a higher one. Here's a 2.0. 2.1. And they're at different depths, like 17 kilometers depth. Here's a 1.6 at 4.3 kilometers depth. Here's a 1.9 at 16 kilometers depth. I mean, it's kind of all over the map. Here's a 1.5 at 1 kilometers depth. So, I can't believe, if it's from drilling, I can't believe they'd be out there drilling all night long. I just don't buy that. So, I mean, you know, there may be drilling around there, but I don't think it's during the day. And the results of the drilling could be causing earthquakes, in my opinion. So now let's look at Yellowstone. And we've got 8 on the map. Let's cover these quarry blasts first. We've got a 0 magnitude quarry blast near Whitehall, Montana at 3:17 this morning. Are you kidding me? They're blasting in the middle of the night? That's crazy. At a -2 kilometers depth. And then a 1.4 magnitude near Butte, Montana at 12:03 p.m. today at -2 kilometers depth. Maybe that 0 magnitude was so they wouldn't wake anyone up in the middle of the night. That's crazy. Why would they be out there blasting in the middle of the night? So I'll call these off. 1.3, Old Faithful, and these are okay. So we've got a cluster here. Oh, we only got 2. 1.3, and that's about to come off the map, and a 1.1. See, the yellow means it's about to come off the map. I thought I saw a whole bunch there at Old Faithful, and then here, well, it says Old Faithful, but it's way over here. 1.4 at Old Faithful Geyser, Wyoming. 9:31 this morning. Then 1.4 near Manhattan, Montana at 11:35 last night. Well, no wonder with all that blasting. 1.0 near Helena, Westside, Montana at 11:44 last night, and a 1.1 near Lincoln, Montana at 6:51 this morning. That it? I guess so. Now, Seattle, what have you got here? Washington. Washington has 5 today. We've got a 0.6 near Packwood, a and that's at Mount Rainier, it looks like. 1.4 near West Ridgeland. 0.6 near Buckley. 0.8 near Shoreline. And 1.7 magnitude explosion near Enumclaw at 10:05 this morning at a -1 kilometers depth. Moving on down into Portland. Now they had some explosions that have come off the map because I looked earlier. But what they're showing is a 1.6 magnitude explosion near Molalla, Oregon at 12:38 this afternoon at a -1.2 kilometers depth. Now let's move on down into California. 1.5 near Petrolia at 1:02 this afternoon. 2.0 near Hayfork at 5:40 this morning. 1.9 near East Shore at 6:11 this morning. Now we've got some activity near Reno. We've got a 2.8 near White Hawk, California at 7:55 this morning. Uh-oh. At a -1.4 kilometers depth. The epicenter is up in the mountain. So let's look at this on Google Earth. Let's see where this is, okay? This is going to end up being a long show, but that's okay. It's Friday. So, it's by Betty Creek. It's just north of Betty Creek, and it's in the mountains. That's in the mountains. There's Sierraville. So, here's Interstate 80, and it kind of goes around here. So it was north of Interstate 80. It's in the Tandy National Forest, and it was up the mountain. Here's Lake Davis. Here's Plumas National Forest. So there's Gray Eagle. So yeah, it's just up in the mountains. Apparently there were two there, it looks like. So there was a 2.8 at 7:55 this morning at a -1.4 kilometers depth. Then a 1.0 near Portola, so that was just north of that at 10:58 this morning. So 3 hours later, that one. Then up here, a 1.4 near Cold Springs, Nevada at 2:12 this afternoon. Then look what we have to the east of Sparks. We had an explosion, a 1.4 magnitude explosion east of Sparks, 8 kilometers east of Sparks at 2:01 this afternoon. You want to see where that is? Let's look where that is. See where this earthquake happened. Since it's in my backyard. Right there. Here's I-80. Here's where Sparks ends off. Reno and Sparks kind of just run together. You don't know the difference. So Sparks is a lot easier to drive in than Reno. So it was right here. 3.5 kilometers deep. So that was at 2:01 this afternoon. So they were probably doing some building or something. That's on the way out to Fernley, Lockwood, Patrick, McCarran. Anyway, this is the Truckee River that goes along there. That comes down from Mount Rose and goes through Reno and then continues out to the east. So I gotta focus here. Now we've got 1.3 near Silver Springs. Nothing down near Hawthorne. Here's a 0.7 near Hawthorne. Here's a minus 0.1 near Hawthorne. And here's some more just coming on down. Small ones, just small ones down. And these are southern Nevada, just peppered around. And 1.4 near Alamo. 1.9 near Goldfield. Minus 0.1 near Beatty. But what have we got? We got another cluster here at Goldfield. Remember we had that swarm here a few days ago? We've got a 1.1, a 1.0, and a 1.9. That could be from mining. I just don't know. Now let's look at the geysers. This looks active. 44 here today. Let's see how many of these are 2.5 magnitude and higher. None, so they're all under 2.5 magnitude. So, that's a bunch of them. 44. All swarming around there. Yep, ones and under. I don't even see any 2. Well, here's a 2.0. Then they're ones and under. Here's a 2.2. So those are the highest ones. See, they're still coming in. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 all at once. Let's show that one. East Shore, yeah. Okay, let's move on down this west coast. Here's a 1.8 near Berkeley at 9:23 this morning. This one just came in. A 2.5 near Colma at 6:29 this evening. 9.2 kilometers deep. Here's a 0.8 near Alum Rock and a 0.8 near Alum Rock, and a 1.2 near Seven Trees. Moving on down along this red line, that's the San Andreas Fault Line, is a 1.5 near Pinnacles. Here's a 1.7 near Huron. Here's one over here, 1.1 near San Simon. 1.8 near Parkfield, 1.0 near Semler. Now we're coming down into Southern California. There's Los Angeles, and they're peppered around. So in Southern California, including this one near Mexicali, we have 32 on the map today. That's a 1.9 down near Mexicali. Are any of these over 2.5? Nope, they're under 2.5 magnitude. So 33. So they're peppered around all over Southern California, as you can see. Here's in this Kauai area, we've got 15. So they're, you know, these are small, but it's just showing movement. What can I say? 1.0 near Yucca Valley, 0.8 near Yucca Valley. What have we got here? We've got 3 at Ludlow, a 2.1, 1.5, and 1.8. Here's an explosion or quarry blast, a 1.1 near Norco at 1:54 this afternoon at a minus 0.5 kilometer depth. Now let's come up this east side. Here's a 1.7 near Tehachapi. Here we've got 4 at Little Lake and Coso Junction at 0.6, minus 0.3, 1.0, and 0.6. Coming on up. Did I show that one? Huron, yes. Okay, now Mammoth Lakes and Long Valley, 7 today. 1.6, 0.8, 0, 1.1, 0.3, minus 0.1, and 1.1. I think that's a wrap. So we'll zoom out and see if anything major has happened since we started our report this afternoon. That's Colma, 2.5 near Colma. We saw that. We saw this 2.7 at Arctic Village. We saw this 5.5 at Manga, Philippines. We've seen all of those. So I say that's a wrap. So I do believe that time's getting shorter all the time. And what Dave was referring to in his comment was with the poles kind of moving or cooling back down, and then the jet streams out of whack and all these storms starting up all over the place. It could be things just starting to pick up, and once they start snowballing, it's just like a train going faster and faster and faster, and there's nothing stopping it. And it'll be one thing that sets off another thing, sets off another thing, and you're gonna see all kinds of disasters. So this is why I say time is short. It's time to get your spiritual house in order and get right with God and Jesus. Get that tractor beam to heaven. If you don't do anything else, do that. So I love you guys very much, And until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and goodbye.